Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside Paul Brecht and Michael Lescaro. I'm Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network. And welcome to the show. Happy Monday. Another packed weekend to get into, especially and including the Eddie Aikau Big Wave Invitational that officially went yesterday. It's one of those things, just like how we joked about, like the stadium. I didn't know it was going to go until it actually happened because you just never know if the Bay will call the day or not, and the Bay did. So we'll get you caught up with what happened and what you might have missed yesterday. Also coming up on the show, get into some UH men's basketball as they came out with a really good win last night, and some NFL college football playoffs were alive and well, and way too many complaints for my liking, and let's just play football and let everything play out. We'll also get into some high school basketball as the Iolani Classic wrapped up, but also saw a new tournament kind of hit the high school basketball landscape over here.
Not really new. It's their seventh.
New executive director and all of that stuff promoted.
Better.
Yeah, exactly. New tournament runners, I guess we can say. So to me, it feels like a new tournament.
Yeah.
All right, and then also the Hoops in Hawaii Classic was happening as well. That's what Paul has just been like. It's a full basketball weekend for Mr. Paul Brecht here, whether it be at UH or at HPU. I'm like, well, yeah, that's right. Paul is calling the games for HPU basketball, and you're all over the place. So it's a full, and it only continues today.
Yeah. Shout out to the Radford Rams, by the way, who were in attendance. I know that's something that Jesse Nakanishi has continued to try and do, is invite these local programs out to games. So they were at one of the two games. I can't remember if it was the Friday or the Saturday one. I'm sorry, I was at both. Either way, it was two really fun games for HPU. But yeah, a fun weekend of basketball that, like you said, continues today. And boy, a really fun one today as well. We'll talk about later on.
Yep, so we'll get you your recap of what you missed last night and look into Hawaii's matchup tonight, earlier than usual, 5:30 p.m. tip-off time for that game against Nebraska, and how we think they're going to stack up against that team that has a lot of size. We'll also hear from head coach Aran Ganat and what he had to say following the game last night, along with Marcus Green and Gides Namiksha. So it'll be, like I said, a packed show, and let's get into it. First things first, though, got to start off with one of the biggest things, if not the biggest, the Super Bowl of Hawaii, essentially, the Eddie Aikau Big Wave Invitational. It's just the 11th time that the contest has run since its inception in 1985. And once again, we get a brand new winner. The North Shore's Landon McNamara wins the Eddie Aikau Big Wave Invitational. And now it invites 35 men, 10 women, and of course, a bunch of alternates, a couple of 2 rounds and 5 heats per round. It's just a well-rounded contest with it almost feels like a party and a celebration of big wave surfing, because and shout out to all of the event organizers. Like, it's really quite incredible when you think about it, for a last minute event of this caliber. I mean, you got live streams on different platforms, including regular television, multiple channels on YouTube. And you have all the drones in the air and all the invitees and everyone that has to come together, the judges, the security and control, crowd control, the lifeguards, all of the watermen and women that were out there keeping these surfers safe. It's like insane when you think about how massive of an event this is. They say like 30 to 40,000 people trying to get there in Waimea Bay. And for it to feel like it just goes on perfectly, like without a hitch, that's like, I don't think, especially like people like ourselves who are used to going to events and putting on events, to put on a last minute event like that, like, it's just incredible and a testament to everyone behind the scenes. And like I said, the organizers, because can you imagine like putting on the actual Super Bowl last minute? Like, hey, it's the Super Bowl, you guys, like, let's go. It's the Super Bowl. So I wanted to emphasize that point because it was incredible. And again, Landon McNamara, There are a bunch of alternates that went in, including from the very beginning. Keala Kennelly, one of the original invitees, she actually was not able to go from the start. She's still dealing with some lingering injuries, but she was the first woman actually to be invited to the Eddie back in 2017. But Izzy Gomez from Hawaii was able to slide into that spot. There were some significant injuries, including Mark Healy, who busted an eardrum. Fortunately, that was the kind of the worst of it. There you also had Laura Enever, who's got like slashed on her leg and then she had to pull out, but busted eardrum for Mark Healy. Hopefully wishing him all the best. And I think that's people don't understand how crazy it is with big wave surfing, because you're essentially going at a high speed. It's like you're hitting your head on essentially concrete, or we see football players, right, hit their heads and helmets against the grass, and that can knock them out. Same goes with surfing when you're going at that rate of speed, depending on how high you like eat it and go over the falls. It's madness. That was literally my whole day yesterday. I watched like 10 ball, and I have nothing to include in this conversation because I am only watching surfing, and I know you guys don't keep up with it as much. So I'm like, I have nothing to share because you guys would both be probably lost with everything that I was saying and watching. So I'm like, that's what I was doing. Someone else that got in as an alternate, shout out to former University of Hawaii running back Joey Cadiz, now a lifeguard out there on the North Shore, and he got the call to go in. Someone else, another Wahine Tiare Lawrence, got in. She's, in case it sounds familiar, she is a Maui girl who really contributed to getting the word out and the fundraising done after the Lahaina wildfires. So she was able to get in there. I got to give a shout out to Billy Kemper, who is just a monster of a surfer, charging some waves. Took a pretty crazy spill off of a big wave, but that guy is actually literally almost died a few years ago out in Morocco. So the fact that he can go in there and still continue to charge and crush big waves is like, it's crazy. But enough of me talking. Let me let you guys hear from what the contest winner and champion Landon McNamara had to say following that win.
You know, this is a childhood dream of mine, something I've been working at since being a little kid on the beach here, watching these events go down. And I win it back to back with my best friend Luke. He's my big wave partner, and this is like, I don't know what to feel right now. I already cried 10 times. That's why there's no tears right now. I'm more just soaking up this moment. Grateful to be here. Grateful to the Aikau Ohana. Grateful to my Uncle Garrett coaching me through this. Grateful to my dad. Grateful to my partner over here and my son. And grateful to Eddie. Both my heats, I had a turtle I was following. For real. I had a turtle I was following.
Following a honu. If you guys aren't really familiar with just the vibes at the contest, that's what it is. You know, the Bay calls the day and Eddie picks the winner, and that's why you hear all of the cheers. So it was like Manny Chicken Skin just talking about it again.
It's cool, man.
So Landon McNamara at the top. Second was Mason Ho. Third, Billy Kemper. Again, shout out Billy Kemper. Jamie O'Brien at fourth. Nick Lamb at fifth, Luke Shepherdson, the defending, I guess, champ, you can say, but as McNamara had said there, they charge big waves together, so it's almost like a back-to-back team win, for the best way to put it. Luke Shepherdson at sixth. Seventh was Nathan Florence, the brother of John Florence. Eighth was Kai Lenny, and at ninth, Koa Rothman. Also want to make sure we give a special shout out and show it on our YouTube channel, the Wahine that were competing in this year's. Again, it's a mix of the invitees and also the alternates that went in. I know Moana Jones Wong, actually the queen of Pipeline, she didn't go in the second heat, and they exhausted their list of alternates for the women and had another guy go in there. So it really just felt like like I said, a pure celebration of big wave surfing, and 11th different winner. I just had somebody ask me yesterday at the basketball game, like, so who is the favorite to win? Who is projected to win? I'm like,
Eddie.
honestly, yeah, whoever Eddie says is going to win, that's who's going to win. You never know who's going to win. I think that's what makes it so fun to watch is anything can happen. It happened when I went in 2009. It seemed like Kelly Slater was going to win. And then like the last wave, maybe it was Greg Long that ended up winning that one in 2009. So you just never know how it's going to go. That's how it went this time around. You thought maybe at one point it could have been Ian Walsh and Billy Kemper. And then it's just a fun contest to watch all around. Actually, shout out to Greg Long. Also, he officially retired from this contest. Anyways, after a while, you you got to give up the big wave surfing. I totally get it. So
it's okay. Oh my gosh, the waves were super, dude. The Morgan and I talked about it basically all day. She brought it up to me. I mean, essentially every other hour, maybe like it might have been every hour. She's like, "Are you seeing the waves at the eddy?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's like kind of half the pull of it all." But no, I mean, what another great event, and really, I'm glad people made it out mostly okay. I know the injuries were mounting, but overall, it seemed like it was a really special weekend.
yeah,
and Landon was pretty good. Like, there's a lot of storylines with Landon McNamara. You mentioned things putting together on last minute. That's people that love their jobs and not just doing the bare minimum, working 9 to 5. But his dad Liam is one of the contest directors. So I saw an interview with him. He was getting emotional about that, and then I think Landon got a perfect 50 on one of the waves, and he's the first goofy-footed surfer to win it, which is kind of interesting because, I mean, goofy-footers surfers have won like in the Olympics, I've noticed, but the first one to win it, that's kind of awesome to see. And he's also a recording artist, so shout out to him for boosting his quote-unquote NIL. And anybody that wants more reggae island style music to listen to, you got more, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was cool because when I'm putting together the Instagram reel, I can use for his Instagram reel. Like, this is pretty awesome. Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out where his dad is emotional as well. And it's just all around. I loved when they were doing like the top 9, and then it was Nick Lamb, I believe. They're like, oh, the only Californian to infiltrate the top finishers because everyone else is from Hawaii. So it was just an incredible day, incredible contest as well. And again, 11th different winner out since 1985, and the conditions were beautiful. There's been times where it's a little, overcast and it gets a little choppy from time to time, but it was, and especially the middle of the day, the waves got even bigger, and then it kind of tapered off towards the ending. But congratulations to everybody. Again, it was good to see no significant injuries or anything to the surfers, to the watermen, to the people watching, because I think last time there was like a huge surge up onto the beach, and then like a puppy almost got swept away, but luckily lifeguards do what they did and saved the puppy last year. And so again, congratulations, Landon McNamara, everyone that even paddled out there, because even if you don't catch a wave, I mean, it's scary.
I salute you, you crazy people.
Wiping out, like I've wiped out on like Manini waves, and that it sucks. And I can't imagine wiping out like how these guys do. And yeah, shout out to everybody. What a fun time. Hopefully it continues where we didn't wait that long for the next contest. Like I said, I talked about it on Friday. I'm like, wow, this seems like a really short gap than what I'm used to with waiting for the Eddy. And then hopefully we don't have to wait again, and let's go. But yeah, what an incredible time. All right, gonna step aside. When we come back, we will change it up and get to some University of Hawaii men's basketball when we come back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, DJ Pauly B right here. There you go. Just need like the ones and twos. And Michael Iscaro on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. All right, getting into some UH men's basketball. And as the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic is underway, began yesterday in Hawaii, coming out with a huge win over Charlotte, 78-61. So good win, good solid win, entertaining from the jump. It was one of those because it just what happens with teams, right? Sometimes you have a good first half and maybe the second half, not so much, but Hawaii playing a nice and complete and very entertaining game for a lot of the fans that were in attendance. Gitas Namiksha leading the Bows in scoring with 24 points, followed closely behind Marcus Green with 22, and they pretty much led majority of the scoring for the Rainbow Warriors. So huge games by them. And before we get into more of what we took away from that game, want to let you guys hear first from the players, and then you'll hear from head coach Eran Ganat. So first, let's start off with Marcus Green and Gitas Namiksha and what they had to say following that win.
Fun one for you guys tonight. It seemed like everything was kind of clicking right from the start. What did you guys feel as you opened up this 2024 version of the Diamond Head Classic?
Yeah, just a lot of fun being out here. First time playing the Diamond Head, so we came out with some energy. Was excited to really attack the 40 minutes and go out from the jump.
Gitas, you were aggressive early, had that two-hand dunk right at the start. Was that something you wanted to do? It's something you always do. How much does your aggression, you think, set the tone for the team?
I hope a lot. That's what I'm trying to do. Just keep the energy up, be that energy guy, and I don't know, just keep my team up. That's what I like to do.
Maybe just some early thoughts on Nebraska as you guys head into tomorrow and just the field overall as you saw the games today.
Yeah, no, quick turnaround. They're a solid team, top-ranked team. We're just going to get ready, prepare with recovery, prepare with film, and get our scout ready, and then throw another first punch.
Gitas, what do you think it'll take against Nebraska and their front line? They got some significant size on that team.
I'm not afraid of that. I played really strong guys last year. I played strong guys this year. It means who's gonna bring the more energy. It's quick to turn around. Just after one night we're playing again, so it's gonna be who's gonna want it more.
And that was Marcus Green and Gitas Namiksha following their 78-61 win over Charlotte last night to tip off their Diamond Head Classic run, hopefully, to the championship. Now here's what head coach Eran Ganat had to say following that win.
Really pleased. Happy for our guys to advance in an incredible tournament. And we've been talking about trying to play well at the same time. You can see the potential, but to click at the same time, I think that was a step in the right direction there. And really team performance against a really good team, especially with the difficulties in what they run offensively. A lot of respect for their program, their staff, and just really happy for our guys. You know, thought we defended pretty well. We knew it was going to be a 40-minute cover because, as you saw, they still throw that pass and thread the needle and get those back cuts. And you know, I think we did overall a better job taking care of the ball. Plus 16 on the boards. Usually going to put you in a position, but you know, nice to see Marcus. We've said is a good shooter. See that coming for him, and Tom, who's got such a great attitude and so impactful and all heart. You know, his breakthrough come. But I thought it was a team effort, and we needed that to do what we did to get the reward of advancing. Well, I thought we had defensively that was a big factor in you know, the shooting component in our push. I think we've been talking about pushing the ball more, and we got some quick guys and bigs who can run. So you're not going to have much of a push if you don't get stops. You can, but it's not as easy. And I thought the defensive effort for most of the game gave us an attack. And obviously, you got to get off the board. And you know, being plus 16 on the boards gave us an attack. So very fortunate, very pleased. It's humbling. But here we are with a great reward to advance in a great tournament.
you guys have battled your way back from deficits in several of your wins, second half specifically. What was it like in that second half to manage that lead? They got down to 13 at one point.
Well, I thought, look, we were up 9-2, and I think maybe 11-2, and they cut it to like 11-7, 11-9. So give them credit, and that happens. It wasn't a lot of what we did. Give them credit. But we talked about at halftime. Hey, this is a great quality of this team, and we got to keep it going. We've been a great second half team consistently, and we can't let our foot off the pedal because we're on the positive side of it for the first time in a while at half. So I thought they did a good job in the second half, stretched it to over 20, but we kept saying, and you coach long enough, and they're very good, and they cut it to 12 with a lot of time. Fortunately, we made some more plays late.
You brought up Marcus there. How much does it open things on the offensive side of the floor when the shot is hitting from long distance for you guys?
Well, we talked about, look, Ryan's had a game with 5 made threes. Cody's hit 7 in a game. Gitas has hit 4 in a game. Akira's hit 4 in a game. Harry's hit a couple in a game. Tom's hit a couple in a game, and I can go on. So when you combine that kind of shooting with an inside attack, we got really good front court depth. And Tanner, I know sometimes you don't see it, but his seals and his work inside opens up the paint for drives, and the shooting opens up the paint. So guys are starting to make reads, and the right reads.
It seems like sometimes Gitas just pops off the page when it comes to his stats, and it's it doesn't feel like the flashiest way. What is it about him that allows him to be so effective without needing the ball? 30 shots a game?
I think he's a great worker, great kid. He's got incredible confidence. He's been consistent with this effort, and he's a late bloomer. Like, the future's very bright. Played 2 years internationally and then came for 1 year at Xavier, and it's kind of like a year and a half of college basketball. And he wasn't here this summer with us. And so we know he needed to get comfortable with the system. He's still getting comfortable. But the fact that he can shoot the three, you could see the jump in his shooting. He's really worked on it. Get to the paint, post, get to the line. He's versatile. And so it's hard those guys are hard to just take out of everything. But it's been very needed for us, and a credit to him. He's got a bright future.
Just some early thoughts on Nebraska for tomorrow, what you might have seen from them today as you guys prepare for, like you said, a pretty solid tournament field.
Well, today and all year. This is a top 25 team. They're either close to getting votes or right on the cusp, and they've been consistent all year, playing their best basketball, tough schedule, well coached, strong, physical. The reward is a heck of a challenge, and that's what you live for as a competitor, but a lot of respect for them and their staff. They're put themselves in position to be clearly an NCAA tournament team.
That was UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot following their 78-61 win over Charlotte last night to advance now to the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic semifinal, in which, like you heard him say, they will play Nebraska. Now, we'll talk about that matchup a little later in the show, but Paul, first we'll start off with you and just your overall thoughts on Hawaii's very fun and impressive and somewhat complete performance that they had last night.
In my opinion, probably their best performance of the year, start to finish. You can make that argument simply because, they led wire to wire. How many times have we said that this year about the Rainbow Warriors? And the answer is not many. Probably against Life Pacific. Is that like the only one?
Probably,
maybe.
Yeah.
Wire-to-wire wins for the University of Hawaii men's basketball team have been really hard to come by, and it's because of something that we talked about in those post-game interviews, and they struggle to get out of the gates fast. They're usually an excellent second-half team. It's just the first half, and more specifically the first 5 to 10 minutes of a game, they can't seem to get that consistency that we see them play for, 30 minutes of the night. Last night, that wasn't the case. You see Marcus Green starting to hit shots from long range. You see Gitas Nemishka being, as aggressive as we expect him to be now. It seems like every time he's out there on the floor, his motor is just getting higher and higher and higher, and he keeps going and going and going. And last night, you saw those two look like a couple of guys who needed a new home in the offseason, right? And for different reasons, but they are very clearly two guys who are very talented basketball players who just needed a change of scenery to flourish. Gitas Nemishka, in his way, he needed just an opportunity to play more an opportunity to be in the offense and whatever, and he's fit in perfectly. I mean, as good as you could really ask. He doesn't ask for the ball, really, and he still is. I mean, he's going to be averaging above 15 points per game after last night, and like I said, it's not like a Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant is like, oh, give me the ball, let me go one-on-one. It's literally just because he cuts, he takes good shots in rhythm, he goes hard to the rim. It's impressive, and it's not because he's doing anything out of this world. And then on the other side for Marcus Green, we knew he was an excellent player coming in. It's just the guy, unfortunately, has been on a bunch of teams who all they did was lose. That's why he came to Hawaii. It's why he believed in this coaching staff, because he understood the talent was there, and he understood that he was going to have good players around him, and the coaching staff never had a doubt. I mean, Eran Ganot, to his credit, has never wavered on the fact that Marcus Green is a very good shooter. And I'll be honest, I've been starting to be like, is it going to come around for us in this year that we have him? And last night you see it, and you've been starting to see signs of it. But last night you finally see it, and how much more that opens up for the Hawaii offense when Marcus Green specifically is hitting from long range, and then when everybody else does too. I mean, this Rainbow Warriors team can be hard to stop.
Yeah, and I think also the pizza in Waikiki may have influenced Marcus coming here, but yeah, Marcus in the lineup, he just gives the Rainbow Warriors another ball handler, and I do like him on the floor because when he does get the outlet pass or when he does get the rebound, he is looking to push the tempo, and that's something that this team has lacked. Some of our other ball handlers, they'll look or they'll kind of slow it down or look to the side and see what the play is, but Marcus will go. And he had that moment on that fast break dunk, I believe, in the first half, which was really awesome to see a guard get up there. And then going back to Paul's point about Gitas not asking for the ball, that's because Gitas goes out and gets the ball. Like, we see him crashing the boards on the defensive side and the offensive side. And I think even some of the defensive possessions, he was kind of playing almost that 5 role or in that low block role on the defensive in the zone. And I like that guy. I like that because he's able to score on levels as well as Marcus Green. So I like them. I like having them in the lineup together. Those are our guys, right? I think what we're learning through before we get into Big West plays, those are our guys. Those are our alphas. Those are our dogs, and that's something that this team didn't realize last year, right? We were there was that stuff where is it Noel, is it Jovan, is it Bernardo, but eventually Justin McCoy emerged when he should have emerged earlier, but because of that senior laden class, it took a while. But now with Gitas and Marcus, those are the guys who need to do well. And of course, Tanner will still be Tanner, right? But yeah. I think depending on Tanner to put up his white shack numbers is not sustainable, right? But yeah, that was positive to see.
From what the expectation was in the beginning. But same thing, like the first couple of exhibitions, when you look at Gitas, like he didn't seem like he would be the player that we've seen most recently, and Marcus Green. And I think Marcus Green being there is a good, kind of a good influence to Aaron Hunkin-Clater, right? Because hopefully Aaron clearly has like the basketball skills and the IQ. Now maybe he can learn a little bit more from the confidence that Marcus Green has been able to show us and what makes him such a is. Now Hawaii was able to control down low still, outscoring Charlotte 40-28 in the paint. So that's always good to see. I know Harry Ruliadev kind of missed a bunny, but then it was able to make it back by having a nice little turnaround jumper that he had in the second half. But I remember that bunny shot. Everyone's like, no, how do you miss that? But made up for it, so it's all good. So shout out Harry Ruliadev because he was able to make up for that. I know that
he made up for it on the next possession too. He got a steal. So.
It like burned in my brain. I was like, oh no, that was not good. Right. But it's okay, Harry.
I can admit this. I did look straight to you after that. I looked directly to where you sit. And I won't expose that. If the people know, and if they don't, well, you should look for Koo's crazy twin. But I did look right over to you because I was like, because it really was a wide open layup that he smoked. But he did an excellent job. But that's something that a lot of, I was going to say young guys, but I mean basketball players in general don't do is after you make a mistake, after you blow something easy or whatever, how many guys put their head down and sulk? What a great job by Harry just to get back, make a defensive play, get it right back for you. And that's really just kind of the character of this team in a lot of ways where they don't let their head stay down when things are bad, and that's part of the reason you've seen them be so good in the second half. Hopefully they can just start like they did last night the rest of the way, and then it makes things way, way easier.
Yeah, easier for everyone. All right, but coming up this afternoon, 5:30 p.m. at the Simplify Arena at Stan Sheriff Center, the semifinals of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic between Hawaii and Nebraska. We got a true Christmas celebration with the green and red going in action tonight with the team colors. Gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we will switch to some football and talk about the college football playoffs and how everybody should just relax and just let the playoffs be the playoffs. So we'll be right back. Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautiful list of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. Alongside Paul Brecht, Michael Lescaro, I am Kule Agbayani. Mahalo for tuning in this and every weekday morning from 8 to 10 and streaming live every Monday like we are right now on our YouTube channel. Mahalo for everyone that's watching. You guys can like and subscribe. Text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481, and be sure to follow us on social media at High Sports Radio. I feel like this recent photo that we got in our text thread should be posted on our social media if Paul hasn't seen it yet, so it's awesome.
Oh, Lord. Oh, my God.
Totally captured.
I was curious if I was going to get any or get sniped at
I think
any point.
at the time, the score was 25-9, so Paul was not feeling it at that moment.
I was kind of.
We might need to share it on the inside then with everybody else. But let's get into some college football right now with the college football playoffs well underway, getting started over the weekend on Friday and Saturday. Now, before we get into some of the scores, like we got to talk about like, can everyone just like be quiet and stop complaining? And I know people on this show are a lot better than that, so I know you guys aren't complaining. But just in general, everyone just. Oh, see, this team getting blown out, that team getting blown out. Lane Kiffin crying about Ole Miss and all the Alabama fans crying about that and the SEC. People, like anyone that thinks that the first round games were going to be close, like you clearly don't keep up with enough college football. I mean, I wish I knew where the recording was and I could be like, check the tape, because back when they even talked about an expanded college football playoff and they were kind of deciding how many teams for it to be. And when they said 12, I honestly was like, that seems like a lot. I feel like it should be maybe like 6 to 8, because after 8, like the disparity between like the top teams in college football and after that, like it's just it's significant. Maybe because of the changing landscape in NIL, you'll start to see the gap start to close a little bit. But for the most part, it's always like top X amount of teams are like way better than the other part. So I was not honestly surprised with some of the blowouts that we saw over the weekend. And that's another thing too. I hate how people aren't giving these teams credit because they're like, oh, this team, that this is not as, none of these teams in here are as strong as like those Alabama teams and these Georgia teams and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's fine, but it's not because the athletes on those teams aren't as good as some of the other athletes that were there. It's just because part of the good thing, I don't know if I can say good, but part of with everything happening in college sports, now the talent can spread out a little bit more, whereas it feels like all those SEC teams, because they had a lot of the just the bells and whistles to offer a lot of these collegiate athletes, they got all of the talent essentially from the pool. But now you see just all of these athletes going everywhere and going to different schools and spreading it out. So you see just collectively more parity, and I think we'll see a little bit more as things go along. But for the most part, like, we need to just enjoy. We've been crying for college football playoffs forever, and give it to the people who have been crying about it to cry about how it's played out so far. So it's just been, I just want to enjoy some college football. Like, let's just, and like I said, anyone that's completely shocked with how it happened in the first round, yeah, you clearly haven't been paying attention to college football, where the top teams are just, that's just the way that it goes. But it was still fun.
I noticed a stark difference in the amount of noise after the first three losses and then after Tennessee's loss. Did you guys notice that too?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because everybody else gets their butt handed to them, but the SEC team gets absolutely smoked by Ohio State, and not a word. All of a sudden, it's just bad. You know, oh, it was tough because you got to go on the road and play on the road. Don't we think that's part of it for maybe all of these teams? Perhaps maybe it's just really hard to play on the road in college football. Maybe that's the case. Maybe we also have blowouts in every playoff? Every single one of them. I mean, goodness sake. We think back to TCU, Georgia. Before that, guess what? TCU deserved their place there because they ended up beating, like, it's so frustrating to hear because every year we have blowouts in college football and in football in general. And then you get to this point and you're like, oh, well, we should basically make it the SEC and Big Ten Invitational because those are the only two places where good teams come out of. Shut up, right? Also, I'll ask this, right? Guess what? 1 versus 16 seed. What happens in those most times in the NCAA tournament? Can you tell me? It's a blowout. It happens all the time. The better teams are better than the not great team. Yeah. Does that mean we should kick out this bottom half of the NCAA tournament now because, half the games kind of suck because half the teams get blown out? No. People who enjoy college sports should just watch. Shut up, enjoy the game, enjoy the college football playoff, and go through. Indiana, who everybody made this big consternation, the big mess, blah, blah, blah. Indiana didn't deserve. They had the smallest margin of freaking loss through the entire weekend.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I'm just so sick of people complaining about sports. Enjoy the sports.
Enjoy it.
Like,
this is what we wanted. This is what we wanted this whole time.
Nah.
And just enjoy it.
Complain away. It's a good talking subject. Complain away. But, more seriously, though, again, these were the lower seeded teams playing on the road of a higher seeded team. That doesn't seem like it's, the home team. And everybody's going to be amped up. It's not like they're playing at a neutral field like these next couple of games are going to be. So people that want like a closer game and upsets, it's probably not going to happen. This is the first year of it as well. I mean, also, you have a lot of teams from the southern part of the country going up to higher parts of the country, northern parts of the country, with SMU going to Penn State, as well as Tennessee playing at Ohio State, like Paul brought up. Nobody talk about Tennessee getting blown up, but I said it in the past. If a SEC team has to go up north, they are going to struggle because of the cold. And then we see it with Hawaii when they have to go play in the cold. And for Tennessee, Tennessee was practicing or warming up without their shirts on,
Oh,
while
dude,
Ohio
that's
State,
nice.
who lives there, was fine. Like, if you're gonna have to do that kind of stunt, it's already in your heads. And playing football in that kind of weather, it's not the same, right? You know, kicking the football, catching football, it's about harder. You know, I know in the next segment we're talking about the NFL, so give a little preview. You know, when the Rams beat the Jets, that was the coldest game in Matthew Stafford's career, and there was an ugly game. That's just how football is. Yep. You're gonna have to be able to run the ball, and for these teams that are in here that got blown out, they understand now, hey, there's a different level of preparation. There's a different level of being on your attention to detail that you have to pay attention to. And of course, this is a early, you know, usually in bowl games, we'll have it like later in the year. So this is a very short turnaround for them to get ready for their opponent. And, you know, is it going to be more competitive in the next round? Probably, because they're at neutral sites. But this first round, that's what we get when you want to have more teams in the tournament. And I think 12 is a fair number because you do need to reward top seeds and give them a bye. Now, adding 16 teams, that's where we should probably draw the line. But I will maybe open the possibility to 14 teams. That's the max I'll go.
I still like the 12. 12 is just right for me because, like I said, it's so different from college basketball, right? Like, it's just football is a whole different animal, and your top teams are just going to be that much better. Like, you can't just make a shot like basketball, like someone just having a hot shooting night and someone isn't. And that's the difference in the game where some of these underdogs can surprise a lot of people. In football, it's different. I feel like 12 is perfect. You're always going to get someone that's crying for being left out, especially from the P4 conferences. And, you know, when Boise State makes it to the championship, they're going to cry some more about how, like, they're still going to continue to be like G5 doesn't belong. They'll use the excuse that, it's because, like I said, people are saying these teams aren't as good as those Georgia and the Alabama teams back in the day. I'm like, well, like, they're still good football teams and it's still good football. But yeah, we go back and it couldn't have ended any sweeter with that Ohio State, like, walloping of Tennessee.
I loved it.
Like you said, the energy changing. Ohio State 42-17 over Tennessee, and Ohio State the 8 seed, Tennessee the 9 seed. And it just, the social and the Twitter feed just completely, like, went silent. I think you had even, like, Nicole Auerbach and, like, maybe Chris Panina or somebody was like, oh, where's Lane Kiffin now? He's not saying anything.
Where's
on
Kirk
social
Herbstreit?
Yeah,
He's been so vocal about all this stuff.
Anything.
Herbstreit's really bugged me about the whole thing, dude. And I normally like the input that he's had to say, but oh my goodness gracious, for somebody to go and last year what he did with Florida State, this year to completely flip the feeling on it, and then the way that he's gone to bat. I mean, make it a little less obvious how you're in bed with the SEC, how you're in bed with the Big Ten. Like, it's so gross, dude. I wonder if people actually enjoy college football sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, just
all of it. But some of the other scores, if you guys missed it, Texas beating Clemson 38-24, Penn State over SMU 38-10, and Notre Dame over Indiana 27-17. And now going into the quarterfinals, you got one game on New Year's Eve, and that's the Penn State and Boise State game, and the other three on New Year's Day with Texas versus Arizona State in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, the Ohio State versus number 1 seed Oregon in the Rose Bowl, and then, as we mentioned, Boise State, Penn State in the VRBO Fiesta Bowl, and Notre Dame and Georgia in the All-State Sugar Bowl. So I think we'll get a lot more competitive games. There's bound to be at least one blowout. Hopefully it's Boise State blowing out Penn State, but we'll see how it goes. We got to all cheer for our lone Mountain West G5 representative. I think in a perfect world, like I said, it would be fun to see Oregon versus Boise State just from a my pure standpoint and fandom. As a football girl that I am, I would love to see that be the championship game, but we'll see what happens. I'm just going to enjoy football while it's here.
I'll just laugh because cool. I guess you're a Airbnb, a hotel kind of girl because you said VRBO. I've always known it as verbal. How about you, Paul?
Oh,
no comment.
I honestly hear VRBO.
Really?
Yeah.
I always hear it as verbal.
Because I used to think it was verbal, and then I saw it on, like, TV or something, and someone said VRBO, and I'm like, okay.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know.
It's an above 30.
They don't sponsor us, so I don't really care how it's pronounced. I'm going to pronounce it how I see it, how I decide. Unless they want me to pronounce it however they want to, they can.
Hey, we gotta boost our NIL estimation over here in our studio.
Oh, all right. Gotta take a quick break. We'll be back to close out hour number 1 on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro. All right, before we get into some NFL conversation, just a little bit to close out hour number 1, I thought this was interesting where I saw on Twitter get posted when we go back to talking about the college football playoff. And if it goes by, so they did it based on like the highest seeded conference champions, all of that stuff. But if it went by pure rankings, that's kind of interesting to take a look at. That the first round would have been Notre Dame versus Clemson, Ohio State versus Arizona State, Tennessee versus SMU, Indiana versus Boise State, and then the byes would have been Oregon, Georgia, Texas, and Penn State. So let that sink in. Maybe, that's bound to happen if they revamp it or something. But I was like, maybe that could have made for better matchups. Maybe it couldn't. But at the end of the day, all of these commissioners and the Hui agreed to this particular format. So stop crying and let's enjoy some football.
The idea is just to make like P4 people angry that it's like, I sit here and I think about it where, what if we just gave every conference champion an auto bid and we have like three at-large bids? Then it's really just cannibalism of the top teams or whatever, because then, you still have an opportunity to get in, but winning is the ultimate thing. The winning matters the most, and you have to make sure that you take care of business in your own conference. But on top of that, like you gotta have, or you have a little more sprinkle of having, you need to have that non-conference schedule be more impressive for those top teams. And I don't know, I think about all these different things because, one, P4 has had it too easy for too long, and they continue to cater to themselves, and I'm sick of it.
Yeah,
so
we need to change it up now. All right, just a few minutes left here. I wanted to start some NFL conversation just based on, I still thought it was so funny. Like of your guys' two teams playing, the Jets and the Rams yesterday, and of course it would end up in a weird, wonky game. Final score, Rams coming out on top 19-9, but Paul texted hey, what was it? It was like 6-6, and then you're like, how do you think these scores happen? And I kid you not, I really did want to think it was like, are there safeties in here? But I was like,
so much better
man.
if it was.
I was like more realistic. I was like, a couple of touchdowns and missed PATs, which are still not likely to happen in a way. And in the NFL, right, for both teams missed their PATs. So either way, it was kind of wonky. That's how it started. The final score obviously looks weird too. The 19 points is something that we usually don't see. So I'm like, this is a interesting game. I'm wondering if like, what, did you guys have your own like texting each other separately from our group chat, like just some playful banter? Or no, that's all.
No. We were making sure Koo realized that NFL was playing that day.
No, it was only Eddie Aikau happening yesterday for me.
The funny thing was I have Devontae Adams and Breece Hall in my sleeper league, and I'm in the semifinals. And if you were to tell me that the Rams won and the Jets never punted, I'll be like, wow, my fantasy team must have went off.
It's been great.
But no, they turned it over on downs like multiple times. Unfortunately, our undrafted free agent took away a second touchdown reception from Devontae Adams. So that's what happens in the fantasy playoffs when you're there. Sometimes you have to root for the players on the other team. But the Rams won, and shout out to the Vikings for beating the Seahawks, because we are now in the 3rd seed in the NFC. And I had the Rams finishing 2nd in my summer prediction. But yeah, it's really fun to see. Paul got his wish. The Jets rightfully tanked and moved closer to a draft spot. The Raiders did not get the memo because they
did not.
Yeah, so
neither did the Cowboys either, which is kind of funny. With the Cowboys, they are eliminated mathematically as well, but they beat the Buccaneers 26-24, who the Buccaneers are very much alive, and we'll get the full playoff picture for you guys coming up in hour number 2. But yeah, to see the Cowboys, like, did you guys just decide to start winning like the back half of the season? It's so crazy. And you would think like, hey, maybe you start tanking and try to fill up that roster again in the draft. So to see them beat the Buccaneers, who with the Buccaneers losing kind of makes the playoff picture a little bit more wonky, which is fun to watch from afar. Obviously the Bears are eliminated, but that was pretty interesting. We're like, okay, Lions clearly took care of business over the Bears 34-17. No surprise there. Just like the Falcons, Paul Breck's Falcons over the New York Giants 34-7.
But yeah,
just like Michael talks about the Rams, I talk about the Falcons for the preseason prediction. Everything else is just absolutely washed for me, but for that, I'm holding on to the Falcons for dear life.
The Cowboys and Buccaneers game was kind of fun for me. Especially listening over on the drive over. Shout out to Kuala Federal Credit Union for sponsoring on our stations the Cowboys games. But I'm also going against Zorned in the fantasy playoffs in our HSRN Field of Dreams fantasy playoffs, week 2 of round 1, and I had CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee Lamb had a really great game. So that was fun to see. I also like Tampa Bay. I picked Tampa Bay to win the division, so that kind of sucked. I do like Baker Mayfield. I know that was a wonky play at the end of that kind of sealed it for the Cowboys. So yeah, the Buccaneers and Falcons, that's gonna decide the NFC South, and the Rams and Seahawks, that's what coming down to the NFC West. So I think other than that, everyone is pretty much locked in to get to the playoffs. That's already in there. Especially after the Commanders win over the Eagles.
Yeah, and again, we'll get you the full playoff picture coming up in hour number 2. Also in hour number 2, to start things off, though, we will get you guys caught up with a lot of the action that has been happening over the weekend and last week in the transfer portal, as it deals with the University of Hawaii football team, as well as where some of the former UH football players have landed now. And just take a look at some of the other top players with Hawaii ties have also landed at some new schools, and just your overall rumors and everything going on. Get into some more high school basketball and the Hoops in Hawaii Classic with HPU basketball. And as I mentioned, the full NFL playoff picture, as there's just a couple of weeks left. So still got a full second hour to go. But for now, we got to take a break. So we will chat in a couple of minutes here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. Did you
FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. I'm Kule Ugbayani alongside Paul Brecht and Michael Lescaro. By the way, shout out to Michael Lescaro and our sponsor at Fantastic Sam's. Look at this haircut that you got.
It doesn't look good though with the headset, so that's
I know,
why
but
I
still,
didn't wear a hat.
looking sharp there though with your brand new haircut that we got from Fantastic Sam. So I just wanted to make sure, since it's our YouTube show, that we pointed that out.
I am working on a reel. Reel, Chad.
Okay.
So I did sit in my car, filmed like 5 videos like of me talking.
Oh
So.
wow,
Ooh,
Mr. Influencer,
I
Mr.
know,
Model,
really.
Mr. Michael.
There we go.
Come on, okay.
So shout out to Chad and Fantastic Sam's for getting Michael his haircut that he needed to so badly.
Yeah,
and
shout out Eva
UCF
Beach.
football,
Eva Beach.
back away, darn it. Devin Ellison just picked up an offer from UCF football. I know we're about to get into that conversation here, but
yeah, but before we get into that conversation and all of the transfer portal updates, want to make sure we continue to remind you not only Fantastic Sam's taking care of our Michael Lescaro right here, but also giving that unique opportunity for a Hawaii high school football student athlete in the class of 2025 to continue their education and football playing at the next level. Fantastic Sam's Hawaii is providing a scholarship to Valley City State University. Again, that's Valley City State University, where there are a lot of Hawaii players that are on that roster. So even though it seems kind of random, if the player ends up there, they'll feel like they have other Hawaii players along their side as well. So if you are or you know anyone that falls into that category, again, a Hawaii high school football student athlete in the class of 2025, go to vcsuvikings.com and submit the recruit me form. That's vcsuvikings.com, and then you can check out even the roster, get in touch with Coach Urick if you have any questions. He's in charge of the Hawaii recruiting over here. So again, mahalo to Fantastic Sam's for getting our Michael Lescaro all cleaned up with his fresh haircut, and then also for providing this opportunity for a local high school football student athlete. All right, first things first, want to get you guys caught up with some things that were happening in the transfer portal over the weekend and some official visits that have happened as well. But first, there has been some things going on with the University of Hawaii. So Michael, just share for our audience a new commit that just came in and also some OVs that have taken place as well.
Yeah, so we got a commitment from a wide receiver out of Stanford yesterday in Jackson Harris, 6'3", so kind of a bigger receiver. Some places he's listed at 190. I think the Stanford website is listed as 205. So we'll see what his actual weight is. But this is a big body receiver. Did not know much about him. I didn't hear much chatter about his recruitment. So when it came through the pipeline, I was a little taken aback because I didn't know what to expect, right? But digging more into some information, he is, we had 4 confirmed receivers that visited, that took an official visit this past week. One kind of not confirmed, maybe he canceled, or maybe he came early, and that was Malachi Riley out of Arizona. Who did visit Boise State last weekend, so that's one target that we might be missing out on. But we had, kind of 2 groups of receivers that we brought in this past week. You have the big body receivers that can be physical and help with run blocking and possessions, as well as receivers that can take the top off of defense, right? And Jackson Harris fits in that category, where he is a big body type receiver. He can kind of fit in that Alex Perry role where who I think he signed with New Mexico State, at the Aggies. But that's kind of a role where there's kind of a drops with that role because with Alex Perry. But this guy should be a little bit more consistent. At first I did not like that. I didn't hear much chatter about him, but looking back on it and kind of reviewing, I kind of like that he was a bit incognito with his recruitment options, right? Usually people are like, oh, so and so offered, whatever, even though it, maybe be like they misspelled the team that offered them. But he appears to have some religious background to him, and in his bio he lists 2 Corinthians 5:7. And I know part of our team, good amount of our team are very vocal with their faith. So I'd like to think that that's a little recruiting pitch that we have. I know that helped with getting our specialist the past weekend. He doesn't have much stats, if not any, from Stanford. I know that was a crowded receiver room. But, Jackson Moore from 247 Sports that follows the California teams and the Pacific teams. He's really high on his ceiling, so hopefully he can be consistent. But again, I like the fact that he was incognito with his recruiting, because that shows, the receiver position is known as a diva position, and that's we don't in Hawaii. We can't afford to have that kind of stuff. But also players that did visit, talking about the speedsters, Brandon White out of Kentucky. He has no career collegiate catches, but he was clocked in at 4.28 seconds in the 40-yard dash. I've been in communication with his NIL agent, so I'll just read off what the NIL agent told me. And it says that, I asked how Brandon likes Hawaii. He said he's loving it. Needs a little more from the collective /NIL, though, because he can't be staying in the dorms, but loved everything about it other than that. Another receiver is Devin Ellison. I've also been in contact with him, and he says, hey, let Warrior Nation know that I'll be here. And before the weekend, he listed his Final Four schools, which is Nevada, which he did not visit, Hawaii, UTEP, who he visited before, and pick up an offer from Central Florida within the past hour. So that's that. Before we kick it back to Paul, I do want to point out that, last year we had that running back situation with Braden Shager. If there was one player in the portal that played for Hawaii, that entered the transfer portal, that might come back, that's Dekel Crowdis, right? Who also transferred from Kentucky in the past. He likes Micah Alejandro from what we've seen, but he did make a point in the 7 a.m. hour before our show to say, hey, I have not committed anywhere. My recruitment is open. So there's still a possibility that he might come back to Hawaii.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a perfect segue, because that's exactly where I was going to go. Was Dekel did tweet out today that his recruitment is totally still open, so don't necessarily close the door there. Also, I do want to urge Hawaii fans, because I've seen this in the past with Braden Shager, and I started to see it now with the transfers now. Please don't be ugly, I guess, to the players who are leaving. Please don't say...
Yeah, Al.
Please don't say things that are so grotesque or whatever. And also, I will say, be open to these guys coming back. I mean, there are... I know it feels a certain type of way, but just because someone enters the transfer portal doesn't necessarily mean that their entire heart was out the door in the first place. And in today's day and world, unfortunately, you're not going to get a ton of people who are 100% in any place. It'd be nice to get Dekel back as well, because he's a good wide receiver, and right now the wide receiver room still needs more talent. Speaking on the players who have gone away, you mentioned Alex Perry before. He announces his commitment to New Mexico State over the weekend. All the best to him. Wish him the best there. Like Michael mentioned, some drop issues with the Rainbow Warriors during his time here. Is 6'5", a really impressive frame, but under 200 pounds. He needs to put on a little more size so he can potentially build on what that frame can be. And, who knows what the future holds for an Alex Perry, because he does have that natural athleticism and whatnot. But like I mentioned, he's off to New Mexico State. Malachi Finau announced his commitment to San Diego State. There were some rumors about the Aztecs over there, and it sucks that you see him stay in conference. It sucks to think about him playing next to Trey White, because that's scary as all get out. But a nice grab for San Diego State over there, as a talented defensive tackle leaves Hawaii. And speaking of talented defensive tackles, another one announcing his commitment over the weekend, Deion Washington, also staying in conference, but fortunately not a team that we'll see next year, unless, I guess, perhaps the Mountain West Championship. But in the regular season, you wouldn't see them in Boise State. One singular year of eligibility left for him, so it's not like he'd be around for another year to potentially play against Hawaii. So definitely sending all the best to Big Deion Washington, somebody who was always great with the media and always very generous with his time. And I really hope all the best for him. Armando Lewis Jr. is the only other one that I have right now. One of the freshman wide receiver who didn't really see any time. He end up redshirting this year. He goes to, I think it's Minot State. Is it Minot?
Oh,
Minot?
yeah.
I think it's Minnow.
Minnow State. And it's funny because former UH football player and Daryl McBride Jr. is over there at Minnow State. So, hey, getting some of the Hawaii players to come on over there and at least continuing their career. But those are some of your updates with UH getting players and also UH seeing some of the players that entered the transfer portal and find new homes. Again, like Paul said, shout out to everyone that, at least contributed some of their time, their blood, sweat, and tears to the University of Hawaii. And we wish them all the best. And we'll be kind of keeping tabs on what happens with DeKel Crowdis and whether he comes back to the University of Hawaii. All right. But there are other things, especially players with Hawaii ties that have also entered the transfer portal from other schools and also announced their commitment to new schools with the craziness that is the transfer portal and college football right now. So, Michael, I know you kind of are in tune with all the happenings and even hearing from the rumor mills. Give us some updates on what are some of the players that have announced their commitments to their new schools that have their Hawaii ties here. And then also maybe some of the things you can share with us along in the rumor mill surrounding where players could potentially end up.
Yeah, I was hoping today to kind of lead off with this portion of the segment because I was told that it would be breaking today that, hey, Anelu Lafayette, would look good in green, just like his father. But unfortunately, that news was breaking yesterday because I guess the Michigan State graphic department works fast and they got that graphic out to Anelu. So Anelu is staying he is going to transfer from Wisconsin to Michigan State Spartans. I know there's 2 Hawaii boys on that team, so there's at least some players that he can kind of relate to. But yeah, he had plans to go to Nebraska and SMU, but those, I guess, once you commit, and then you have to cancel those plans and those are paid trips by the school. But the transfer portal is a scary place. That's where careers can kind of die. Some of the UH football players that I thought would get an offer ready or would be committed have not committed yet. So that's kind of, maybe that, again, like Paul said, don't shut off any opportunity for a reunion. But I think yesterday there was also a news where Bill Belichick's son, the defensive coordinator from Washington, will be following his bill. Is somebody with Hawaii ties. I'm being vague, right? That could either be a Hawaii high school player or a player that transferred out of Hawaii. Follow Stephen Belichick to UNC, which I think would be kind of cool.
Oh, okay. I love the little tease there that we're following up, and we're actively scouring social media to see everything that is kind of popping up here in the world of college football play.
So we also, there's been a lot of different multiple position groups. I think receiver we let off with because we did get a receiver commit. But there was also a quarterback, Luke Weaver, who I think is Paul's fourth cousin twice removed. Oh, cousin-in-law.
Yeah.
Out of Modesto Junior College. He was a 2-time conference offensive MVP for a winning program. Threw for nearly 3,000 yards on a 62.5% completion percentage with 25 touchdowns as well as running for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. He visited Louisiana Tech on December 17th. He visited Hawaii on December 20. From what I gather, he is a very cerebral player, which is something we need in any position, but definitely in the quarterback room. I like him. He's kind of a similar frame to Braden Shager, so that part of the playbook that Timmy Chang and the offensive coaching staff kind of implemented to complement our traditional run and shoot plays. He's definitely a high target for us. I do want to point out, though, that he's going to check back with Louisiana Tech after the bowl game, the Independence Bowl against Army on December 28th. Now, I bring that up because Louisiana Tech was among the schools that were 5-7 that they were looking for the replacement. So keep an eye on that game because maybe a bad showing by Louisiana Tech.
Are we rooting against?
We're rooting against Louisiana Tech so that he wants to come to Hawaii. But I do want to point out, when players get in their official visits, they take pictures in the school uniform, right? So he did post his photo of him in a Hawaii uniform 6 minutes before he posted a photo of him in a Louisiana Tech uniform, even though he did visit Louisiana Tech first.
Okay, we're reading between the lines
that's
here.
my
I like
kind of
it.
sleuthing right there. I love
Our
that.
assumptions. We want to go with the positive. And to wrap up this particular conversation, I do want to also add to the positivity, at least for Hawaii's sake. When you talk about quarterbacks, I know we never really got like an official statement type of announcement from a current potential QB1 for the Rainbow Warriors and Micah Alihado, but I know he did post, what was it, like a week ago at this point, the picture, a game photo of him and Timmy Chang, and he put soon. So I feel like that is good enough. I feel like he's not that type of player to post that and then be like, haha, just kidding, I'm leaving. So for those that aren't actively on social media like we are, I would say I would take that as, like Paul said, that's good enough to kind of know that Micah is staying put here for the University of Hawaii. And I want to shout out another guy, Zen Sotelo. He's been very vocal in terms of like just pro Hawaii and putting like these quotes about working hard and working through stuff. So we talk about a lot of the linemen that have left, but got to make sure we give flowers where flowers is due. And Zen Sotelo just really doubling down like for Hawaii and just saying all of the positive things that have been going on so far.
Speaking of Zen Sotelo, I know our defensive tackle Rum and group got hurt, right? He's been very vocal, so I don't know if Zen listens or watches the show, but I just want to point out, hey Zen, maybe you can play an offensive line and get some snaps at defensive tackle and kind of pull and make a case for Heisman.
Yeah. There you go.
Exactly.
Who would that be? Like a lineman winning the Heisman.
I mean, he is a former defensive lineman.
That went
he was a
over.
really good defensive lineman too, if I'm not mistaken.
That's why I wanted to make sure, because I've had it on my notes and I've never said it, so I was like, perfect time to just with everyone make sure we the people who have like really doubled down on their commitment to the University of Hawaii, especially Zen Sotelo. So shout out to him, because he's been very vocal, again, posting quotes and memes about just working through the adversity and staying here. And this is the home team, University of Hawaii football. Let's go. Is it football season or gotta wait so long? I'm ready for it to go already.
It's still football season.
Not for his. Okay. But there is the Hawaii Bowl tomorrow, which will feel almost like we're cheering for a team with a couple of Hawaii players coming up on tomorrow's show to get you geared up for the game day tomorrow at 3:00 p.m. at the Clarence C.C. Chang Athletics Complex. For now, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will get into some high school basketball and let you know what you missed around the island over the weekend on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. Are you
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro. I just want to make sure we mention this text because we always talk about how Michael is like finding all of the information you need to know on social media. This text saying Michael is the kind of friend you need to stalk the social media of someone you're going to go out on a first date with.
Yep.
Michael will find out anything. And I think Paul and I have mentioned that before, that Michael is that person that will he will dig up the receipts from anywhere and everywhere. He is the receipt king, 100%. He will find it.
If it's out there, it's out there, right? It's public knowledge. It's not like I'm stealing anything. It's out there.
This is true. This is 100%
If you don't do your homework, you don't do your homework. You gotta be prepared. You gotta failure to prepare is preparing to fail.
Yes, I
Amen.
think that's how the saying goes. All right, getting
Bring back
into some local basketball here as going in action. Of course, there was the Iolani Classic Boys Tournament that happened. Utah Prep coming out on top, the champs, obviously highlighted by AJ DeBansta and a local Brewster Academy out of New Hampshire, 45-33. So very, very close one, but Utah Prep as the pre-tournament favorite that we were expecting to come out on top of this year's Iolani Classic.
This was the exact matchup that I said was going to happen, by the way.
Forget.
I'm pretty sure
Gotta go check the tapes.
I don't know if I said it on air or not, or if I just said it to you, but I'm pretty sure that I was just like, we're playing this entire thing just for it to be Utah Prep Tech. Jeez, I'm criminy, Paul. Utah Prep taking on Brewster. Brewster is a top 5, in my opinion, prep school in the nation year in and year out when it comes to basketball, youth basketball, high school basketball, whatever you want to refer to it as. So I kind of figured they would make it there on their side, especially watching Oak Hill, who just unfortunately wasn't that impressive in terms of what a national level high school basketball team was. These two teams were head and shoulders above everybody else, and you kind of saw that in a lot of their scores. You saw that in this game, though, that they were two teams who are very, very likely to compete for a grind session title, which is what Utah Prep plays on. Very likely there's the Aikau National Tournament at the end of the year that a lot of these prep schools end up playing in. These teams have very big aspirations. This was a really nice matchup for both of them to improve themselves as they go into the new calendar year and what is likely to be a really difficult stretch of schedules for each of them. And what is there left to say about AJ DeBansta that we haven't said yet? The kid is so impressive. You can see why he was the most coveted recruit in college basketball in how long?
And already has that NBA potential in terms of the draft pick and everything like that.
He is. I am almost ready to just write him in ink as the number 1 pick, not next year, but the year after, right? He is impressive. JJ Mandequit, what a homecoming for him. And Utah Prep, I'm glad they won because of the bunches of Hawaii ties on the team.
100%. That's what I think that's the fun part to kind of look at everything. Hopefully, Anthony Falesi, we want to come to the University of Hawaii, please. Thanks.
Tell these other schools to back off.
Yeah, and that's how we joked last week's show, right? Because he had a really good showing in that first game, and we're like, can you tone it down a little bit so that you won't get noticed by these other schools? No, in all seriousness, though, it is awesome to see some of these local guys succeed, including it was a fun tournament. Also on the flip side, you got a tournament going on at Marino, the Tony Salito Invitational, in which Marino won in significant fashion, 70-32, but had a bunch of teams as well, a mix between schools over here and then on the continent, and Marino coming out on top over Kona Waina. But also participating, you had North out of Torrance, California, Pearl City, Waiakea, West Anchorage, El Captain out of California, and Mid-Pac over here as well. Before we talk about that a little bit, want to let you guys hear from the newest tournament director, I guess you can say it, in Peyton Grant.
All right, Peyton, first year as the executive director of the Tony Salito Invitational. Your thoughts on how it went?
I think it went well. I was a little stressed out coming into the week. Obviously, we have a lot of traveling teams wondering if they'll actually get here and then show up. The biggest thing for us was catering to them, making Hawaii feel like home and welcoming. So I think we did a good job. Our staff, our ADs, Ben Vale, Blaine Geyer, they did a really good job. And then Micah Tong and Brandon Amano helped me a lot, along with our boys varsity program. So none of this would have happened without all of them. My name's just executive director, but everyone played a factor into this. So yeah, it went great.
There's a lot of, boys basketball, there's a lot of preseason tournaments going on right now. There's the Illinois Classic, I think later on it's going to be the Puno Invitational. But what makes the Tony Salito Invitational special?
Well, first of all, I don't want to sound biased. I think we have the best gym in the state. It's AC, big, we don't have as much parking, but, we can fit a lot of people. We got the rooms, the facilities, and then obviously now we have sponsorships and all that stuff too to make this something big. Yeah, so I think all these games have been competitive. Even if it's a blowout, it's to the end, to the last whistle, it's competitive. So that's what I've liked seeing so far.
You mentioned the sponsorships, right? Your first year, Micah Tong as well, with this, helping with that corporate side of things. What do you guys hope to see from this in the future, and how much do you guys want to grow it to?
We want to grow into, just a bigger tournament, and just be able to showcase Hawaii basketball against the mainland or whoever it may be. That's the first thing, and then Iolani Classic, you see the Hawaii teams play one game, they lose by 50. We don't want that. So we got competitive games, competitive teams coming in all throughout the tournament, and then just using the sponsorships to able to maybe get one team that is a nationally ranked program. So without Mike and Claire, this would have never been possible. All the food, the hospitality of the room, man, it's a blast. I'm hearing a lot of feedback from the visiting coaches, and you guys having this tournament next year? And I was like, maybe, because they want to come back. So yeah.
And again, that was Peyton Grant, the tournament director for the Tony Salito Hawaii Invitational that happened over the weekend. And also, if his name sounds familiar, former player at Marino, and also his dad is the head coach for the boys basketball team as well. So that's kind of how it comes full circle. And like he mentioned, he's like, I don't mean to brag, but we have the best gym. And he's right. That gym at Marino is beautiful. The parking, limited parking, but the gym itself is very big, very spacious compared to like going to the Iolani Classic, and it's just you're like packed in there like sardines. So we'd love to see the tournament grow a bit more, and you guys can be on the lookout for us and potentially bringing and assisting with some broadcasts from the tournament and maybe some live streaming that I know some people commented to have. But yeah, Michael, you were out there, so just kind of share some of your thoughts on that matchup.
First off, I want to point out that Peyton Grant is a former Hilo player, because we're going to be talking about some Pac West play. But yeah, it was, definitely got some kinks to work out of the way. The team that they played, Kona Wino, wasn't actually supposed to be in the final but the reason why is because Aikau, who is another Big Island opponent, was in the third place. So they had to do some switching because the Big Island Federation league is already in conference that prohibits them from playing a non-league game while they're in conference. It's different from if it was out of conference, right?
Got it.
So, but yeah, there's a lot of kinks to work out there, but I thought it was well. Micah Tong, who's in charge of the corporate sponsorships, he did give all the doing a solid job on there.
Let's go.
I guess need to get some work on getting the information out. But yeah, shout out to it was the 7th Tony Salito Invitational. But in the past, it has been just kind of matchups, right? This is the first year that they kind of brought a tournament bracket kind of stylized tournament, and also was girls teams in this invitation. So that's something cool where it kind of run concurrent. But yeah, it was good. We got to see Mike Kawazoe out of the Kawazoe group hand out the awards, doing his best, because they're all coming from different corners. And then, Claire Tong from Hawaii Pacific Health, who was just a natural, yep, here's the trophy presented by Hawaii Pacific Health, picture with coach, picture with team. Boom, she got it down.
She's a pro. She does this all often, but yeah, it was nice to see. And like I said, we'll maybe assist them in building it up a little bit more. You got the big dog and the Iolani Classic going on at the same time, which we get it. But hey, I would just kind of follow what has been our MO so far. Is like, all right, let's bring up the little puppies that are still up and coming and the underdogs, and build up maybe this Tony Solito Invitational a bit more. So we'll be excited to look out for it in the future. As high school basketball is here, everybody, along with college basketball, which we will get into to close out this hour. But we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we'll get you up the updated NFL playoff picture. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in a couple of minutes here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den alongside Paul Brecht and Michael Lescaro. I'm Kule Agbayani. Mahalo for tuning in this and every weekday morning from 8 to 10 on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, and hawaiisportsradio.com. And you can also watch us on our YouTube channel, streaming every single Monday like we are right now. And you can comment on the live chat in there or text us at 808-888-KGU1, 808-888-54. Listen on demand or watch on demand when we're on YouTube at hawaiisportsradio.com or wherever you get your podcasts. As the first hour was really packed, so I would advise you to go back and listen. Obviously, we started things off talking about the Eddie Aikau Big Wave Invitational, in which Landon lot of storylines that happened yesterday. I kind of joked with the guys earlier that was my football day. Essentially, usually I watch like 10 hours of football, but yesterday I could not take myself away, especially because the Bears are horrendous right now, and I already knew they were going to get smashed by the Detroit Lions, in which they did. So nope, I was not watching NFL yesterday, and my Super Bowl Sunday early Super Bowl treat was watching pretty much the entirety of the Eddie Aikau Big Wave Invitational yesterday. So again, you can listen to the full conversation about that on demand a little later this morning. But the NFL is still obviously alive and well and going on with the playoff picture shaking up just fine. And we will actually, because of Michael Lescaro and some of our other listeners, right now, as Michael mentioned earlier, his LA Rams right there in the 3rd seed at the top so far are the over Chicago. Now the Eagles did lose over the weekend, but hopefully Jalen Hurts will be okay. But the Eagles are currently slotted at the 2 seed, the Rams at 3, the Falcons, Paul Breck's Falcons that is, at 4, the Vikings at 5, and the Green Bay Packers at 6, and then the Washington Commanders at 7. And we'll see how everything shakes up. But as I mentioned, or I posed the question to you guys before, can we imagine that we'll stay the playoffs or the regular season?
Yeah, unless somebody chokes, which hopefully is not the Rams, but the NFC South is competitive. We also have a big game this afternoon with the Packers taking on New Orleans. Packers are 10-4. They almost have they probably won't be able to clinch the division, but they have good opportunity for positioning, maybe to get to. Actually, they might be stuck at 6. I lied, but kick it over to Paul.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see a lot of movement over on the NFC side in terms of anything outside of the South. Like, I can still see the Buccaneers. This is also something funny. I know we joke like, oh, Paul's Falcons and whatever. And yes, in the interest of being right, I want them to make it. I actually really like the Buccaneers. Like, I really, really like Baker Mayfield. I really like Todd Bowles. I really like them just in general. So they've been through a really tough year where injuries have killed them. I mean, absolutely demolished them. And I guess not as much as some other teams in the NFC who might remain nameless.
Part of the 49ers, even injuries decimated them.
I don't know if the Lions want to hear an excuse about injuries, but otherwise, other than them, because I'm not giving the 49ers, absolutely not. We've talked about, the Avengers. Well, the Avengers failed. The universe did not get saved. But I like the Bucks. They're the only ones that I really can see. I think the Seahawks, I mentioned this last week, I think the Seahawks are trending the wrong direction. They're week against the Vikings in the New York Jets former quarterback bowl. Sam Darnold versus Geno Smith, commentated by Mark Sanchez. Sorry, guys. I have so much. Anyway, the Buccaneers. They're the only team I see potentially getting in.
Sneak in there, and we'll see if they can swap maybe with the Commanders. And as we mentioned, the Packers and Saints in action tonight. Obviously, the Saints have been eliminated already, so it should be all Packers, and the Saints want to jump on the care of business. It'll be interesting. It'll actually set up a winner-take-all game for. And so you'll almost get like playoff vibe football for that final game, especially if like the Lions again trying to get kind of that number 1 overall seed or however things shake out. Because hey, oh my gosh, it just pains me because it's like these teams, like I said, the Bears are the only ones asking to be let into the door into the playoffs, as they're the only one getting left out of the playoffs. But nonetheless, it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out. Now going over to the AFC side, the Chiefs continuing doing Chiefs things, sitting at 14-1 and at the top of the AFC, followed by the Bills getting a closer win than we expected over New England. The Steelers losing in what I thought was kind of a really big loss. I think I had Baltimore winning and covering, but actually Baltimore really taking care of business over Pittsburgh Steelers. But nonetheless, still in that 3 seed as it shakes up right now. The Texans with the 4 seed. The Ravens are at the 5th seed. The Chargers and the Broncos. Hunt, though, you still got the Colts, the Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa, and Kool-Aid's second team, the Cincinnati Bengals, that are still out there, but just looking a little, a little too much. I mean, this Kansas City Chiefs team, like, It's one of those, again, it's like you just want to, like, can you just, like, stop winning for once? But it just like last year when they didn't have home field advantage for once, and then they go on to win the Super Bowl, and now they're sitting at 14-1, a couple of games ahead of the Buffalo Bills at this point, and potentially clinching that number 1 seed. Haven't clinched it yet, but it's just right there, and they just are in control of their own destiny, essentially.
They're control of the playoff picture. They're not in control of their own destiny. It doesn't mean that they're gonna win in the playoffs just because they're the number 1 seed. Come on, Koo. Don't give the
I know
Chiefs,
it doesn't mean, because I just said last year they weren't the top and they still won the Super Bowl.
But we don't have enough Taylor
Devil
Swift
magic.
in watching these games as much as we did in the past. So I think that's gonna run out. If you're able to bet against the Chiefs not to win the Super Bowl, because they're not winning the Super Bowl, mark it down. If I almost stopped myself from saying something that I'm probably gonna have to take back, but
Good plan. Good plan.
I was gonna say
Inside voice.
I was gonna say
Stop yelling.
I was gonna
Jesus.
say if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, I'll go to Fantastic Sam's and shave my head. But I'm not gonna.
Definitely
not gonna
shouldn't
say
promise
that, but that's
one
what he said.
because the devil magic will make its way back to you. I'm glad the Chiefs at least followed through on what my original thinking when we did our summer predictions was, I guess, which was, well, if it ain't broke, why fix it? You know, why would I bet against them? And that's exactly what they've done this year. The black magic, the dark arts, whatever you want to call it, has worked out for them to the point of a 14-1 record going into the final 2 weeks. That's win one more game would be low. At this point, that division, that would be super nice for my preseason predictions as somebody who did not predict the Steelers to make the playoffs at all, even though he predicted 3 AFC. At least looks somewhat smart over on
I was
going to
say, like, the Steelers still have to close out the season against the Chiefs and the Bengals, so we could see kind of like a flip-flop with that goes with the Ravens and Steelers, so never know how that's going to shake up as well.
So the funny thing is, if you've slewed our social media, I did not pick the Ravens to make the playoffs when we made that little
I didn't pick the Bills, so
but if you look to your left, Juan, I did pick the Ravens to make the Super Bowl and
Yes,
win.
you did.
So predictions changed. So
yes, you did.
Before anybody flames me about the Ravens not being on there, I did pick them to win the Super Bowl. So
who knows?
Oh, good
my
save by
Super Bowl
you.
prediction is just about done, and it's
That's why
not going to happen.
I am rooting for the Bengals like crazy to make this crazy comeback because they're not eliminated quite yet. They need a miracle to make the playoffs. And you know what? I need that miracle to happen because I have them beating Kyle's Packers in the Super Bowl 34-27.
Which the Packers, like I said, we'll see. They should take care of business against the Saints, and that NFC North, though, a little too far behind, I would say, just the way that the Lions and the Vikings are playing right now to kind of clinch the division.
Oh, yeah,
but it'll be interesting to see how it goes down the stretch. Now, obviously, too, for Hawaii fans cheering for Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins to somehow get in there as well, along with how Paul just said we're cheering for the Bengals to kind of make it interesting for us down the stretch. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. As it stands right now with the odds, the Lions still your shortest favorites at 4-1 odds, followed by the Bills and Chiefs at plus 450. Then you got the Eagles at 6-1, followed by the Ravens at plus 750. And then it's a little bit of a drop at 30-1.
put money on the Rams,
I
guys. That's a
actually
big
kind of like
payout.
that sprinkle.
Or maybe even just win the NFC, and then you got the Texans at 40-1. Then you kind of just drop all over down to the Chargers and Steelers at 40-1. So the Lions still holding up there for the shortest odds to win the Super Bowl, even though they continue to be banged up. But that would be a pretty good story for just Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions if they're able to, even if they're able to just make the Super Bowl at this point, knowing how much injuries and like just all of the stuff that they had to deal with this season. That pains me to say. Not as much as it would pain me to talk nicely about the Packers, but nonetheless, I just like Dan Campbell anyways. He's like my favorite coach in the NFL right now.
Well, unfortunately, the Lions are going to get the number 1 seed, and they will lose to Matthew Stafford in his return to Detroit in the NFC Championship game. Mark it down.
Okay, there we go. Okay, there you go. Okay. On that note, we will close out the NFL conversation now. The show, giving our final thoughts on tonight's Hawaii men's basketball matchup against Nebraska. Network.
Are you or some?
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Escaro. This is perfect, like Christmas music, getting ready for the Christmas colors. We got green and red going in tonight. Hopefully we had that. Was it the SMU game where it was a championship? There was I remember watching the game and Hawaii was playing another red team. I'm like, oh, this is like the Christmas game going on right now. So that's something similar we'll get tonight. Again, 5:30 p.m. The second semifinal going today in the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. And before that, it'll be Oregon State and Oakland. So just look into what happened yesterday. Oregon State beat Charleston 74-65 to advance. Loyola Chicago dropping to Oakland, and kind of in the last seconds where Oakland was able to score that go-ahead and come out on top over Loyola Chicago. So again, Oregon State and Oakland, that game will tip off at 3 o'clock p.m. Hawaii time. And then on the other side of the bracket, Nebraska beating Murray State 66-49, and then Hawaii, as we talked about in the first hour, beating Charlotte 78-61. So Hawaii and Nebraska, and I will kind of defer to you guys on this one because I did not, as I keep saying, I was watching the Eddie Aikau Big Wave Invitational all day yesterday until I had to go to the Hawaii game last night. So I don't know exactly how, at least based on eye test, to discuss how the matchup is going to go today against Hawaii and Nebraska. But what is your guys' outlook on how Hawaii and the Rainbow Warriors can stack up against the Huskers today?
I mean, I think Hawaii, and this is just a general statement, I think Hawaii in general can match up with basically anyone because of the size of their front court. And they're going to need that today. I mean, it's a joke about Nebraska people in general is typically their strength, right? Their size, their strength. It's true about their basketball team. Now, they're not necessarily Nebraska corn-fed, bred, and raised and whatnot, but they're still pretty darn strong. They're going to be a team who, similar to Hawaii, likes to dominate on the boards. You need to see Hawaii have the same effort on the glass that you typically do. Part of the reason you feel good about that is because you do have Gytis Namishka out there along with a Tanner Christensen. You've seen Jerome Palm give you quality minutes off the bench in terms of giving breathers to Tanner Christensen and still having a physical presence out there. Also, Jerome Palm starting to come alive a little bit offensively. He's starting to have like a bucket or two a game off the bench, it feels like. So that's a nice little addition as well. This is a good team. Nebraska is top 50 in the nation in terms of overall net rating, according to KenPom. That's one of the, for those of you who don't know, that's one of those analytics websites, one of the more well-respected analytics websites at that as well. This is a team who also ranks in the top 50 in luck, according to KenPom. So as if there was anything else that needs to go against Hawaii. They're playing a good team. And by the way, this is the top team, according to KenPom, in this Diamond Head Classic at 48 overall. Oregon State is at 61, I believe. Those are the top two teams, and likely those would be the two teams standing in the way of a Diamond Head Classic title for Hawaii. Oregon State, like you mentioned, playing Oakland in the other semifinal today. So should be an interesting matchup. I think it's a couple of teams who are kind of similar, but also Nebraska's got a real quality guard as well. Williams, I believe his last name is, who just had 30 points the game before the last one, before they came into the Diamond Head Classic, was the Big Ten Player of the Week and all these other things. So it's a tall task tonight for Hawaii, but Aran Ganat said it. It's the privilege. It's what you earn when you win, when you play in a tournament like this, is you get the privilege of playing against a challenging team, a really quality program led by Fred Hoiberg, who, by the way, has experience in this tournament. He ended up leading Iowa State to the title back in 2013. So now with Nebraska trying to do the same thing, just in different threads.
This is interesting, taking a look at their box score from the game yesterday, Nebraska, that is. They actually have Connor Essegian, 32 minutes off the bench, who led them in scoring with 15. So I'm curious to see how that goes. Another player who was second in scoring for the Huskers yesterday is Andrew Morgan, also coming up off the bench, putting up 12 compared to all of their starters. So that's kind of interesting to me. Again, didn't watch it, but just box score watching was an interesting thing to point out.
Yeah, one thing in tonight's game that is kind of interesting. I gotta double check, gotta verify it's true, but apparently we're 5-0 historically against Nebraska, and that includes beating a team that had Tyronn Lue when we had AC Carter. So, but Paul brings up Williams, Bryce Williams. He thinks averaging almost 18 points a game. He's one of the bigger guards at 6'7", so that's gonna be interesting. Who gets that matchup? Maybe we might see Akira out there more often with his length and putting some trouble on him. I do think hopefully we might see more minutes from Aaron Hunkin-Clater. Paul brought up Coach Hoiberg, but I'm not sure if it's his son or his relative, but Sam Hoiberg on this team has 16 steals in 10 games, so he's averaging over a steal in a game. And we need a ball handler out there that can take care of the ball, because turnovers have been an issue for this team. And I feel like if we don't take care of the ball, Sam Hoiberg's going to have a phenomenal game in the steal department. But speaking of the point guard minutes, you mentioned Connor Essegian. He's shooting 45% from three. And I know Cody Williams is all on the floor for his defense, so he's going to I hope he plays sticky defense on him and focus on the defensive end. Offensive, I'm not sure exactly what his role is on this offense, so maybe hone in on your defense. If you are solid on defense, maybe your offense will come off of that. So I want to see that from Cody, and also want to see more minutes from Aaron, because we need to take care of the ball against this Nebraska team.
By the way, for those of you who are avid basketball watchers, Berke Buchtensel, he played for UCLA last year. He actually appeared in the Maui Invitational, so he actually has some experience in this gym, in this Stan Sheriff Center, rims, courts, whatever. He's 6'10" out of Turkey, so interested to see how that goes as well. As you mentioned, Bryce Williams, does he look for a little payback for his old team? He spent his first 3 seasons at Charlotte before transferring to Nebraska last year, so obviously the Bows beating the 49ers last night in the quarterfinals, so just making a little joke right there.
I'm glad you brought up the 6'10" transfer from UCLA, because he does lead the team in rebounds, and now is he going to even attempt to pronounce his name. So shout out to you, Paul.
Shout out to my Maui Prep invitation or my Maui Invitational prep last year for that one. Berke is he's fun. He's a southpaw, can step out behind the 3-point line. This is a Nebraska team that's a real quality test for Hawaii. Not quite a North Carolina type test, but the closest thing, honestly, to them, GCU also in that same category.
Yeah.
But those three teams, that type of impressive caliber win, it would be for Hawaii should they be able to come out on top tonight against the Cornhuskers and set up a Christmas Day championship.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And like you joked around earlier, Paul, if you're going to work on Christmas, we're hoping that it is on for a championship that we're watching the Rainbow Warriors. But again, Nebraska and Hawaii later this afternoon at 5:30. But before that, it's the other semifinal in the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic between Oregon State and Oakland. In a perfect world, I'd want to see how Hawaii matches up against Oregon State, whether that be hopefully in the championship and whatnot. But for now, we got to go. For Paul, Michael, I'm Ku'ule. Mahalo for listening. Bye.
1, 2, 3. Your home for you.